Yo, what is going on, everybody? It is Brave Cat here once again with my Frontier Signals geophysical update. So for now, I'm just going to be covering updates here and anything else that I find relevant for the day. It's about halfway through the day, and I've tried to record this 3 times now. That that geomagnetic storm certainly has kind of screwed everything up. You know how it goes. So I want to get some different sources here for this because, I mean, it took forever for this to even update. And even now, like this one little bar that it shows for the KP of 8, that's just like not even close to how like detailed I want it to be. Because, I mean, the geomagnetic storm, it ramped up, got to 8 plus. I think it might have even reached 9. So I mean, G4, potentially even a G5 storm, pretty gnarly. So we got absolutely slapped with that. But there was a couple earthquake-related things I wanted to point out. Of course, other than some of the changes that you probably already see here. Some of these cosmetic updates here. Kind of want a little bit of a vaporwave kind of aesthetic going on here. So the text is a lot more readable and it looks cool. At least I like it. Let me know what you think down below. But it should make things a lot more readable too. So for example, if we go here, sorry, I thought I heard something. This looks a lot better, a lot more readable. And then another thing I've been trying to slowly add here is these magnetic field lines. And these exist for every single angstrom. Because, you know, it looks, well, I don't know much about them, but, you know, it's looking at basically the geomagnetic field lines, you know, literally on the sun, with these sunspots, these active regions. These incoming active regions look pretty bright, if you ask me. Especially that one up here. I mean, you can just see, like, in the corona, it's just, like, shooting out in this giant like paintbrush kind of look there. It looks crazy, but you know, the sun always looks crazy. And there's that blast again. So this is that blast, that X2 flare. I mean, just wow, long duration too. So I mean, this had, you know, some are even calling it like almost Carrington like effects. But remember, the Carrington event in 1859 was like an X, I think like somewhere around an X80 flare. This was an X2 on top of the coronal hole stream, and we basically got mollywopped. So, you know, that's what the whole weakening of the magnetic field and pole shift is all about. It's, you know, it's causing everything to become a lot more sensitive to these things. Let's see, I'm getting some of these satellite charge hazard feeds up. And so I'm really not sure in regards to when I get this website operational, like actually hosted somewhere. I don't know how easily these things are going to break, or, you know, if I get too much foot traffic going on here, you know, these NOAA and NASA feeds, they might just kick me off of it or something because, you know, too many requests at one time. I don't really know how all that works. But if nothing else, you know, I can at least use this for my own benefit and try to do these daily updates and slowly try to become a bit more consistent with them. So anyways, I'm going to kind of wrap this up here with some earthquake stuff. So really the main thing that I want to look at here is the Canada feed. Because things have been strange. I just want to kind of point something out here. Again, I'm no expert, but, you know, there's something strange here. So if we look at the Canada feed, this is the last 30 days. So let's kind of drag that down to maybe like a quarter so that it's roughly a week. So they reported the 6 that happened off of Oregon. I'm not sure why this is showing up on the Canada feed, but whatever. And they reported it as a 5.8. And initially, I thought maybe this was a separate quake. I mean, I haven't actually 100% confirmed that, but it's in the same exact spot. So at first I thought they were hiding an earthquake, but I don't think they are. But it's still weird that they, of course, had to downgrade it. But anyways, the real kind of mystery here, you see these fours, 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 lots of fours. There's a 5 somewhere, maybe. Let me just drag it out slightly and then kind of bring it down. So we're looking at some pretty substantial earthquake stacking here. A pretty substantial swarm of energy that exists on the Canada feed. But then, of course, you look at the USGS feed, which is what most people use, and you're not going to see any of that on here. Well, okay, if it changes, there we go. So yeah, there's a 4 here. Let's take it back to the whole week. There is a lot of activity. Most of it's going to be in the lower, 2 to 3 range. So if we try to look at like roughly 4.0 and greater, like 3.7-ish and greater, there's not a whole lot going on here. It's pretty much, but see, with what we got going on over here, there's a little bit of a discrepancy. And so when you actually load, heck, if we just try to combine the, I guess, 2.5 and greater USGS and the Canada, now I would go with the 2.5 and greater on here, but I find that sometimes that's also a little bit, I'll just say strange, where certain earthquakes will show up, like bigger earthquakes will show up on the 0.0 feed, and they don't show up on the other one. So I'm going to select those two, combine them, apply it, and we'll see if this actually works. Yeah, it looks like it works, but see, since we've got a 7-day feed combined with a 30-day feed, it's going to not really line up correctly. So we're looking at the last week on the USGS earthquakes, which are pretty much all in pink and white. And all these red quakes are going to be, most of them are a lot older because that's the 30-day feed. So, we're just going to kind of scroll it around here, pretty much where we see that 6. And then this is a little bit more of an accurate representation of the full activity. So that means, look, there's a lot of movement going on here. That's basically what that means, right? So, and the other thing I wanted to point out, Italy and Texas. Okay, so let's get those off of here and just go back to the USGS feed here. I just want to quickly wrap this up. So there's a little swarm coming out of New Mexico, and this swarm in Texas, like, the west kind of little handle part, thumb, whatever you call that part of Texas. Something weird, because I've looked at this many times, and typically, for whatever reason, in this exact spot, a lot of times they show this as a New Mexico quake, when clearly it's in Texas. But then now, since this New Mexico swarm popped up, now all of a sudden the Texas swarm is actually being called a Texas swarm. I'm just pointing that out because I've noticed, even just in the time that I've been observing these things, they like to obfuscate the data and kind of shuffle things around so that, the overall data sets are not exactly what they seem, or something to that effect. I don't know what that's all about, but, it's just something I notice. So looking here on Google Maps, this is the New Mexico swarm. Haven't really seen anything around here, but to the northeast, if you kind of notice this large area with all these pads, you can see it basically from outer space. And you zoom in, and these are all drilling and pumping operations, which, these are going to create perforations in the crust and be potential spots for earthquake energy to be released at. And these go on for miles. There's just endless. You can literally see the shadow. So we got that going on kind of to the northeast of this swarm area. And then in the spot in Texas, I might even be able to just find it without even trying here. There is... okay, what are we looking at here? Where's... oh man, we're all sorts of... okay, that was not north-northwest. That's directly east, kind of southeast. I did not have that in the correct direction. So if we go down to Texas here, this one's also pretty visible, but there's a giant solar farm. Yeah, see these pads, they stretch down into Texas. Pretty far and wide. And it is also right along the North American craton that goes down here, through here. Basically these arrows, right? So anyways, it's not like it's too out of the ordinary, but you know, still, that's a lot of pressure, but I digress. The only other thing I was going to point out, oh yeah, other than the Italy, is some pretty fresh activity. Where was that? That was New Caledonia. So there's some fresh activity there, and of course some volcanic activity, and down here. So there's some strange activity going on here. There's no volcano here besides here, Etna. So definitely a lot of pressure moving through, even through Europe. But anyways, it's taking me too many tries to get this to work, and you know, it's just gonna call it a day. So hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next one.